Very considerable issues for us to consider here. And I hope from the conference we can begin to look at an energy policy that makes sense and leaves us with our spokesperson Sandra and E.
I'll be quick. Paul from the Renfrewshire SSP. I would just say that I understand Colin's point. I understand Colin's point that we do need to find where our electricity is coming from, but I fear that like processes like fracking, which are extreme methods of fossil fuel extraction, would open the door to further extreme methods of getting our electricity, rather than actually addressing the issue and finding a clean source of energy. Cheers.
Could those put their hands up again? There you go.
Lewis from the West Fife branch. I'm not yet decided on the fracking, on the issue of fracking, but one of the arguments I've heard for it is that the engineering standards around it aren't tight enough. So if we can tighten the engineering standards, that's where most of the leakage comes from. So if we can maybe adapt a policy on fracking which is tight on, say, the engineering standards, then I think fracking could be a viable option. I don't know, it's just a point that I've heard Robin McAlpine make in the past.
All right, could those want to speak put their hands up again? Okay. Sorry, you're comrade at the back. No, sorry, not the one behind. Yeah.
William Cunningham, I'm a new member, hopefully Mallow branch, whenever that gets up and running. But basically, the point I want to make is that, yes, oil and gas are dirty, but at the end of the day, with fracking, when you can see videos on YouTube of people in America, and they turn on their gas, and then they can put a lighter to it, and it flames out, and that is the reason that I'm so much against fracking, is that there's that propensity to just completely contaminate the water supply, which isn't there with the oil and gas industry out in the North Sea so much as it is with the fracking. And that's basically one of the reasons why I very much oppose it. That's just what I was wanting to say about that.
Okay.
All right, guys, I'm Mark Hodkinson, again from the Stirling branch. I've actually done quite a bit of studying on this at university. I did a number of green politics courses. Fracking is a terrible way of producing energy. It's got one of the... It's got the lowest return on investment for energy production out of any form of producing energy, be that coal, be that renewables, be that nuclear. It's terrible, and the only reason that it's at all being pushed is profit for the large industries. It doesn't matter if we tighten up engineering. It's still a bad process. It doesn't matter if we do all these other things. The profit's still going to capitalist companies. We need to push an actual solution to this, a proper solution to this. We need to push renewables. We could increase jobs in renewable manufacturing. As you say, we've got the largest supply of wind and wave energy in the whole of Europe. Our manufacturing base could be based on that, producing turbines, producing wave technology to actually produce jobs and push our economy forward whilst producing a clean source of energy, not fracking. I'm sorry, it's a terrible idea.
Okay, I'm going to bring in just one other person here because I've got another 7 hands up, and the next one on the list was Alessio, and then I'm just going to go to the vote on this. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me at the back? My name's Alessio from Southside in Govan branch. Student of science, and I'm going to say fracking is an absolutely terrible idea. I'm going to echo what my comrade said there. We use 600 different types of carcinogenic chemicals that get fired into the ground. The chemicals don't disappear. It's going to go somewhere. It's going to come back up. It's going to go into aquifers. It's going to go into your food. It's going to go into lochs. It's a terrible idea. It's going to poison us all. No matter how many reassurances these capitalists can come out with, oh, it's going to be good for the economy. It's not going to be good for the economy. It's not cost efficient. You use more energy actually trying to get the gas and capture the gas, and obviously the whole transport costs with the fracking. Understand as well, coal, oil and nuclear power, it's it's not clean. It does leave a lot of poison. It does poison our planet. We need to start looking at alternatives. And I'll give you one alternative here. Why don't we start putting solar panels and photovoltaic panels on the roof of every house? Not only then are you creating a clean source of energy, you're generating electricity in something that we could put back into the grid, ensuring that we end fuel poverty without having to use fracking, without having to use oil, or without having to use nuclear power. Thank you.
Okay, my apologies to all the other people who put their hands up, but we need to kind of move on in this. I'm going to put these two motions to the vote. One, first of all, in page 18 on fracking from Dundee. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried. And the one from Cumbernauld and Kilsyth on page 19. Those in favour? Those against? That's also carried. Okay, the next motion is on page 20 from Dundee Branch, the Offensive Behaviour at Football and Threatening Communications Act.
Good afternoon, Conference. I'm Conor Beaton from Dundee Branch. Comrades, I'm delighted to stand here and put forward the case for the Scottish Socialist Party to take a principled stand against the Offensive Behaviour at Football and Threatening Communications Act. I want to preface my contribution with the disclaimer that I am not a football fan. I rarely watch the sport, and the only loyalty given unto upbringing is to Dundee United. But as a socialist and as a political campaigner, I am troubled by the provisions of this law and the impact it is having on working class communities, not only on the West Coast but across Scotland. When this legislation was introduced, the Minister for Community Safety and Legal Affairs, Rosanna Cunningham, said, "The overwhelming majority of football fans who have been supporting their teams in the true spirit of the game for years have absolutely nothing to fear from this legislation. In fact, it is designed to improve their experience." I struggle to think of many experiences that are improved by the introduction of an overbearing police presence. I struggle to think of any social problem that is resolved by the threat of arrest alone. I believe in the power of programmes of engagement and education. The Offensive Behaviour Act is a far-reaching piece of legislation that delivers additional police powers to deal with poorly defined offences. Over the past few years, it has demonstrably stoked discontent among working class people. There was no semblance of a proper consultation with civic society, and concerns raised by fans and community organisations were disregarded. The law was opposed in Holyrood not only by all three unionist parties, but by the Scottish Greens and by Margot MacDonald. It is not the product of political or popular consensus, but a hastily devised, ham-fisted law written by the SNP. And in March, the SNP rejected the prospect of an early review into the law's impact on Scottish society. I don't think the SNP realise the full extent of the alienation they've created between working class people and the government. Little has been said by Rosanna Cunningham of the law's potential incompatibility with the European Convention on Human Rights. I note as well that thousands of Scots have shared on social media pictures of these gorgeous pro-independence displays at Barcelona FC matches. Do they know what would happen if there was a pro-Ireland display at a Celtic match? Do they know that even the Irish national anthem, unique among those of EU states, can be taken as sectarian under the provisions of this legislation? And that this is especially disturbing given Scotland's shamefully long history of anti-Irish discrimination. The SSP should be prepared to talk to people about bigotry. The SSP should be prepared to talk to people about sexism and homophobia, which are massive issues in working class communities. Most importantly, it should be prepared to work in conjunction with these communities to foster an inclusive atmosphere, whether that's on the high street or in football stadiums. None of this is possible while the Offensive Behaviour Act remains in place. This motion will commit the SSP in repealing the Act as soon as possible. In doing so, it puts us in step with public opinion and other progressive political campaigners. But most importantly, it is a sign of good faith that we are listening, not lecturing, to working class communities, not to people challenging the role of the police in their communities. It is a decisive step towards a Scotland that is not constrained by hate, and so I say it is critical that the Scottish Socialist Party puts itself in the vanguard of the campaign against this law. Thank you.
Does anybody want to speak against this? No? Okay, I'm going to put this to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried overwhelmingly. Next is the motion from Renfrewshire branch on citizens' income.
Good afternoon, comrades. My name is Jerry McCartney from the Renfrewshire branch, and I just pay a note of thanks to Bill for chairing the meeting to get to these motions at the end of my agenda today. Very grateful for that. The motion is on page 21. A briefing was distributed this morning. You might have found a 2-page briefing on your chairs. I'd urge you to have a look at that as well. I'd also like to apologise for the original papers that went out to branches a couple of weeks ago, which only had the first paragraph of the motion. I'd urge you, if you haven't had a chance to read over the whole thing just now. Citizens' income, comrades, would eradicate poverty in Scotland at a stroke. No other policy would do so. This would bring us into line with progressive forces around the world who are arguing in favour of this. Put simply, it gives an income to every person, every citizen of this country, irrespective of how much they earn, irrespective of whether they're in work or out of work, whether they're on benefits or not, whether they're sick or disabled or not, whether they're a child or an adult or not. And in doing so, it destigmatises and ensures that every person will be lifted out of poverty tomorrow. It's a simple and efficient policy. There would be no means testing, there would be no appeals, there would be no sanctions, because every citizen would be entitled to it as a matter of right by the very fact that they're a citizen of this country. It would be, in essence, something that this country would be proud of. It would be a statement of intent. Comrades, many others are better placed than I to talk about the stigmatisation and the sanctions that have been imposed on many of our own comrades in this room, but many people in our communities with the welfare reforms that the Tory government have implemented. That is a constructed attack on the working class. It's about othering a group in society which has no responsibility whatsoever for the economic crash from 2008 onwards, and yet they have been blamed, we have been blamed as a class for that. This again would provide a universal benefit that would ensure that every citizen is entitled to a citizen's income, and as such would destigmatise the receipt of benefits. In the same way that we've campaigned for free school meals and free prescriptions, it would mean that, yes, some people who are a little bit richer would benefit, but if they do so, well, they'll pay a little bit more tax to pay for the rest of us. And that's the way universal public services work. There are a couple of other aspects of this that are also very positive spin-offs. If you're a carer, suddenly you'll get a citizen's income that will lift you out of poverty. It will take away all the uncertainties that many carers have, and it would actually take away all the need for us to have specific policies for carers, because actually it would deliver them out of poverty and deliver them a stable, sustainable income. It would provide flexibility and an income for students and for those wanting to take ad hoc education, for artists, for people who have musical ability, who maybe want to pursue that but can't do it just now because they're economic slaves having to work for poverty wages. So comrades, I would ask you to read the briefing, support the motion, reject the amendment, although I know it's well intentioned, but I think we've got enough evidence to move forward on this. I will certainly offer to take forward the more detailed working of this, but we wouldn't be alone. There's a whole Citizens Income Trust that's been doing work on this. The late Professor Ailsa Mackay from Glasgow Caledonian University left us a power of work as her legacy. We would use that to produce a fully worked up policy. Comrades, support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, there's an amendment from Dundee branch.
Thank you, comrades. The amendment from Dundee branch, I should give a disclaimer to, is we're not opposing in principle the idea of a citizen's income, and in fact there are many members in our Dundee branch who are very firm advocates of such a policy. My only concerns are that a detailed policy has not yet been written up and it would be best for a detailed policy proposal to be written first and then brought to the consideration of the membership, rather than the other way around, especially since some of the work cited in this motion, such as that by the Citizens Income Trust and the late Professor Elsa McKay, contradicts each other and puts forward different ideas for how a citizens' income motion policy can be developed. Certainly, I believe there is much more work to be done on the impact, for instance, of such a policy on migration, and especially on the living conditions of illegal immigrants, which do exist in our country and are among the most vulnerable people here. So I would just want to move the amendment that rather than committing ourselves now to campaigning for a citizens' income, that we commission a small group to develop a policy proposal to bring back to the membership. Thank you.
Okay, open this up.
Colin Turbot, Ayrshire Branch. Comrades, I don't want to throw cold water on this, but it sounds to me like a silver bullet for socialism. And really, there aren't any silver bullets. I wish there were, but there aren't. Socialism will be won through struggle, principally through struggle in the workplaces. And I don't think prescriptions like this give us, or panaceas like this, give us any kind of a program for struggle in the workplaces. In fact, they give an excuse not to do that at all, but for a single demand that will deliver us all the things that we believe can only be delivered in a socialist society. Now, I haven't thought through my response here. I unfortunately attended an STUC conference on poverty 2 weeks ago, a National Poverty Week. It was an absolutely appalling conference with no references to struggle, fight back, strikes, anti-trade union laws, or any of the other things that are holding us back. And one of the presentations by an ex-banker called Francis Coppola was on this very subject, a very unimpressive presentation. I'm going to ask you if you'll remit this back, because I'm not sure about it at all, and I'm certainly not. I don't believe that this is the silver bullet that people might be looking for. I believe that the things that we want will be won through the creation of a party like the SSP and through mass struggle. Thanks.
I'm just going to bring in one other speaker on this.
Hello everyone, I'm Wendy MacDonald from the very recently formed West Lothian branch. Yay. I'm going to be very, very brief. This is my first time at conference and Hale's first time speaking at conference. I would say that, yeah, this isn't a panacea. Absolutely it's not. It's only one of a whole raft of policies that I think the SSP should be standing up to fight for the rights of everybody in this country. I know that some people have said, can we afford a citizen's income? I would say that we can't afford not to have something akin to a citizen's income. The current welfare system is divisive, it's stigmatising, and over and above that, it's intrusive. It's intrusive to people's lives. People have to they have to account for their time, who's living with them, whether or not their partners live with them or not, and that's really intrusive into people's lives. Not only that, people have to account for the way that they spend their time just now. Something along the lines of a citizen's income not only eradicates poverty and tackles inequality of income, it also tackles inequality in relation to opportunity, choice, dignity, something that people in benefits quite often are completely stripped of. Currently, the benefits system really is a trap. It's a trap to people's freedom. And something like citizens' income can provide a more supportive form of benefits, redistributive of income, and stimulating to Scottish society. Turns that benefit trap into something more like freedom. People have the freedom to care for their relatives, people in their lives, to work if they want to or if they don't want to work part-time, to take a short-term contract and then to go and do something else, to go and study. It gives them the opportunity to create, if that's what they want to do, and to participate in society without fear of sanctions or conditions or somebody saying, do you know what, you can't have your partner staying over because if you do, we're going to take your benefits off you. You can't take that short-term work because if you do, next week we're going to make you fill in another form and take your benefits off you and you'll be left for a couple of weeks with no money. So this isn't just about money, this is about opportunity, and it's about dignity for people, for the citizens of this country, and I think that conference should support this motion.
Well, I'm just going to move to the vote on this. I don't want to kind of open up this discussion because there's other things to get through. I'm going to put the amendment from Dundee branch, that's on page 21. Those in favour of the amendment? Those against? I think that's a number of people didn't put their hands up, so it was pretty close. Could we do this again? Those in favour of the amendments? Those against? Right, I think the amendment has fallen. Okay, right, okay. Those in favour of the main motion? Those in favour? Those against? The motion's carried. Right, we've got 2 or 3 other motions here, and we're beginning to run out of time, so I'm going to abuse my position as chairperson and pick the next one, which isn't in the running order that we've got. It's the one on violence against women. Okay, who's going to move that? Come on. Glasgow Central. And it's on page 23.
Francis Curran again, Central Branch. For the second time today, I find myself moving the resolution on women that I actually didn't move at the branch because the woman who moved it isn't here, which makes me in a difficult position about the amendment because we've not had any discussion about whether or not we should accept it. I don't know is the answer, but I'm going to speak to the resolution anyway, if that's okay with you. First of all, I'll take it in 2 parts. The first part is I don't think there's going to be any debate here about whether we should support the 16 days of protesting violence or highlighting violence against women in the United Nations. I mean, as a woman, when the news comes on every night, it's just brutal. And I keep asking myself, when is it going to end? You've got the situation with Malala, young women being prevented from education, being shot in the head. You've got the situation of bring back our girls, and none of them are back yet. You've got constant narrative of violence against women. You have got the Riva Steenkamp trial, and it's all, the whole narrative is about Oscar Pistorius. You have got the Chad Evans material that's been on the news recently, and all about him, and he gets the airwaves, and he gets to speak, and he's done nothing wrong. You've got the situation in Iraq, where women have set up this My Stealthy Freedom, where they post pictures of themselves on Facebook without wearing a headscarf and challenging it. And the response in that society is a number of women have had acid in the face. There's been protests, which is encouraging, where women have came out and said, we're not living like this. And the issue for me is, when is it going to stop? Now, I don't want to pretend that Scotland or the situation in Britain is any better, because we know that it's 1 in 3 women who will experience violence in their lifetime. And we need to do something about it. We need to be seen campaigning against it, and we need to be seen to challenge it in the left. I want equality, and I want clearly for our party to stand out on this. And I think we have. I think we've got a good record. The difficult comes in the second part of this resolution. I know why. When it came up at the branch, I said, I was tempted to move deletion of this second part of the resolution. Because I said, when it gets to conference, somebody will move deletion. Now, I want you to think for a moment, why are we moving deletion? And I knew it was coming, but I said, you know what, I'm going to support it because I think we should discuss it. I think we should put it on the agenda. Because I know it's going to make people here uncomfortable. But why is it making us uncomfortable? We don't know enough about it. It's somebody else's issue. It's happening over there, and I don't know enough to make a decision about it. And the reason I think we should discuss it is because when I was growing up in Berlanark in Greater Easterhouse, every weekend when I was a teenager, women got battered. The women up the stair, the women in the next close. And the attitude was, you know what, it's nothing to do with us. Nobody intervened. It was the 1970s. You know, the next day, it was all quiet on it when you went to go breaths in the Co-op across the road in Calvi. Then, 30 years ago, when we launched the campaign for domestic violence, we took it around the trade union conferences. And again, there was an attitude, you know what, this is nothing to do with us. What are you doing? It was really difficult. And particularly in some of the big manual unions, it was, why this is not a trade union issue. Now, we've won that argument. The political is personal, or the personal is political. We should on these issues. And you know what? The left has got a problem on this. Or not all of us, but the left is a culture, and we need to challenge it. Everybody's in favour of equality, but when it and protesting violence against women and challenging it, but when it comes to the specifics, it's kind of like, oh no, hands off. You know, this is difficult for us. And you can Google this issue, but what happened is Stephen Headley, who was an RMT candidate, was accused by his then, who also was an RMT activist partner, Caroline Lennon, of beating her up. She put it on the blog, she put it on Facebook. Rory McKinnon, who's a Morning Star journalist, asked questions of a guy called Alan Pottage about this at a conference about getting more women involved in the RMT and about sexism in the RMT. Subsequently, the Morning Star, it was ejected for the conference for it, and subsequently the Morning Star took disciplinary action against him. Now, I know this is messy and I know it's difficult, and I don't know whether we should accept the amendment. I'm not sure is the answer, but we have to discuss this. My point is, this is a difficulty. When we had the issues with Tommy, we expected the rest of the left to support us, even although they didn't know what was happening completely in the party. And therefore, I need to ask Maggie Bean and others, she's over there, what they think about the amendment. We'll maybe have a quick discussion. But you know what? We shouldn't run away for this. We should stand for equality in general, and we should stand challenging violence against women in the specific. That's now I'm convincing myself that I shouldn't accept the amendment. And it's not me, it's Marion that moved it. But I think we have to have this discussion, and we need to be on the left really transparently taking this position. The SWP have had problems, the CWI have had problems, the RMT have got problems. We took the right decision on Tommy, and I would hope we'd take the right decision if anything like this cropped up in our party. And I'm proud of the party for doing that, so maybe we shouldn't back away on this occasion either.
Okay. Listen, I need clarity here. Is the amendment being accepted or... okay, I think we have to move the amendment then.
Okay, Colin Fox, I'm moving the amendment to the motion on behalf of the Lothians name. First thing I'd say is the Scottish Socialist Party has a proud record of speaking out against violence against women. In fact, our record is better than any other party, both in speaking out and campaigning against violence against women. And this amendment is an attempt to improve the motion, because the danger is that point 2 in the motion actually diminishes and trivialises the rest of the motion in our view. We don't think it's right to draw in a disciplinary case in a union, allegedly with a journalist at the Morning Star. And we don't think it's the right sanction either to call for a boycott of the Morning Star as a consequence of that. So the motion is asking Glasgow Central Branch to accept the deletion of point 2. And we would respectfully suggest that maybe it would have been better to present two different motions. One in the case that Francis has suggested, that demands our specific attention and all the information, and one on the principle and a reiteration of the party's policy on the supporting the campaign against domestic violence. So since the amendment has not been accepted, I'd ask Conference to support the amendment in the name of the Lothians branch if it's not been accepted. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to allow two speakers, one for and against, if there is one for or against this. Ken. This is, presuming this is for the amendment.
Can you hear me okay this time? Comrades, Ken Ferguson.
Sorry, Ken, to what heckle you in with that? I think.
Sorry?
They're going to accept the amendment.
Yeah. Do you want me?
I would just go.
I think I'm here to speak in favour of the amendment, even though it's been accepted, not because I favour violence against women or think that trade union officials have got some kind of godlike status and let them to beat people up, but because the information about Rory McKinnon is actually factually incorrect. I checked this with my own union, the National Union of Journalists, with the FOC and the chapel at the Morning Star, the local branch, and the facts of the matter are as follows. Rory attended this conference not assigned by the Morning Star to do so, but went as an individual. It was a closed conference to which the press were not to be admitted, but because he said he was from the Morning Star, he was allowed in. He then raised questions which are not beside to that discussion and was asked to leave. The Morning Star took the view that he had abused his position as a Morning Star journalist, and I think there's some substance to that, and asked him to come and account for himself. There was an interchange. He was threatened with a disciplinary hearing, but it never happened. He was suspended on full pay and then personally resigned. He left it. Now, I've discussed this with my union, and their answer is really quite simple. There's not much sanction you can have about a person who used to work at a workplace and has resigned. You're not campaigning for the reinstatement or anything of that kind, and I think it would be a mistake to suggest that the Morning Star, because of the action it took about this individual's method of operating, somehow endorses violence against women. When it comes to the key point, is the other key point of this, this resolution, where we're talking about boycotting the Morning Star, Cumridge, can I tell you, as your press officer, the Morning Star, the morning of the referendum, carried an 800-page piece by me as to why you should vote yes. It carries stuff from our party on a regular basis, despite the fact that it's in the no camp. Our socialist ideas appear on its pages. That happens, we know, their paper in the whole firmament. And they've all got skeletons in their cupboards that are as bad and worse. And I think it would be a mistake for us to cut off our nose to spite our face in a situation where we're calling for a boycott about something which we can do nothing about. This man is, I think, as far as I know, is back in New Zealand now. But he certainly is not he certainly was not sacked or victimised, but he resigned. And the whole process is much more complex than it's being presented in many of the blogs. Some of the blogs I've looked at which raise this issue are actually avowedly anti-communist and anti-left blogs. And that's no a smear, that's a fact. If you read some of the content, they are opposed to the left, and that's the reason that they're running this story. But my case would be that it really is not appropriate or sensible for us to oppose the amendment.
Okay, as the amendment was withdrawn, I'm taking that more as accepted. I'm taking that more as a point of information. I'm then going to go through with the motion itself. Those in favour? The motion as amended. Those in favour of the motion as amended? Those against? That's carried overwhelmingly. Okay, we have 3 or 4 other motions. I'm going to propose that we remit these motions to the EC, if that's agreed, because it's now after 5 o'clock, and we've got a couple more bits of business. Oh, the National Council, there you go. Okay. If that's agreed, is that Commons prepared to accept that? Okay. I now have the election results for the EC, which I'll read out. First of all, in terms of the officer posts that were contested, male co-chair is Bill Bonner, me. Okay, the male coordinator is me, Bill Bonner. The female coordinator is Frances Curran. The female co-chair, Frances Curran. And the social media coordinator is Neil Scott. On the female list for the EC, I'll just read them. I don't know if these are in any particular order, but I'll read them out. Jennifer Gunn, Christine McVicker, Katie Bonner, Wendy MacDonald, Liz Swan, Margaret Bean, and Jen Muir. And the male list is Colin Turbett, Andrew Cannell, Connor Beaton, John Miller, Tommy Ball, Paolo Cassetta, and Willie Telfer. Okay, comrades. Well, comrades, that brings the conference to an end, almost an end, and we've squeezed quite a lot of business into. It's now 5:05. I think it's been a tremendous conference in terms of the commitment and enthusiasm. Like anything else, we can always do things better. I think in the future we might have to just to look about the structure of the workshops, for example. I'm not sure that worked as well as it could. But overall, this was a tremendous conference. And I thank everybody who participated. I think the task that we need to do... Sorry, people are waving to me. Aye. The task that we need to do is to go from this conference now and carry out the thing that came in all the discussions, which is to turn the Scottish Socialist Party into a mass party. Before we sing the Internationale, I think we've got one other announcement from Kevin.
Thanks very much. We really appreciate, and I think we should give you a round of applause to the people here who have been filming the conference. It's been streaming all day. I think it's excellent. Also want to thank Bill for chairing the conference. I want to thank Alan for his wee film. I thought it was brilliant. I want to thank Linda Somerville who put this slide together, because hopefully it made some sense to the resolutions we're actually debating. I think the people who have been on the front table collecting names, they know the administration, I think they will deserve a round of applause. And the people selling the sandwiches and the tea, a lot cheaper than it was in the cafes, as Comrade Willie Neal from our branch would attest. £8 for a pie and chips, never heard anything like it. And obviously the members of staff of the Augustine United Church who all day have been helping busily. What's it? And Scott MacDonald as well, who did the Joe Bear and counting the ballot papers. Well done. Back to where I started, the people here are filming us have done it for free, which we really appreciate. There is a website, and it's www.independencelive.net, and I would encourage people to access that and to click their support for the work that has been done there. Alternative media, as the campaign showed, is critical in disseminating the truth rather than the lies in the mainstream media. And MD is attempting to do that. I think we should do our best to support. So thanks again. And go have a look, see what's there. You might even see yourself at the conference today, which will probably terrify you, because that's what happens when you're on the telly. Okay? I think now is the point we traditionally sing the Internationale. And now's the point that I hand over to Bill Bonner to start the singing, because MD's heard me singing would know why.
Okay, and I've already primed Colin to lead us off.
Stand up, stand up, stand up. There are the words, right? Join after me. 3, 2, 1. Arise, ye starvelings, from your slumbers. Arise, ye criminals of war.
Just a reminder that comrades are gathering at a pub called Malone's, which I understand is on the corner and is amongst the cheaper hostelries. And for those that are interested in the Spanish independence movement, I do understand, hopefully, that they're showing the Real Madrid-Barcelona game as well. So try and make yourself along. Cheers.
Get my SD card out,